So young people believe efforts to reduce pollution, poverty, and war are doomed to failure. Is that true? You're a young person, right?
Doomed to failure is a little strong.
Okay. This pessimism is probably harmful to humanity's future because people lose motivation to work for goals they think are unrealizable. Cool? That kind of makes sense. We must do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation, and therefore, conclusion, must enable our children to believe that better futures are possible. I feel like there's a flaw here with the last sentence, before we even get to the therefore. It says that this pessimism is probably harmful to humanity's future because people lose motivation to work for goals that they think are unrealizable. The beginning of this next sentence sounds like a conclusion. Therefore, we must do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation. Why do we have to do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation?
Is it in order to try and reduce pollution, poverty, and war?
Well, I think it's because of the last sentence that it's harmful to humanity's future.
Okay.
If something's harmful to our future, does that mean that we should or we must do what we can to prevent it?
We don't have to, but maybe we should.
Maybe, but even should we?
Yeah.
If things are going to harm the future, should we do something about that?
We don't have to.
No?
No.
Like, this is the LSAT, right? This is the LSAT morality test. It's like, just because something is going to harm our future doesn't necessarily mean that we should try to avoid it. Now, I don't think that's a totally unreasonable assumption, so I'm going to grant it, but I'm still going to realize that it's an assumption. Right? This is basically going from a fact to a judgment. Are you cool with that? This is the difference between a descriptive claim and a normative claim. The descriptive claim is that it's going to be harmful to our future. The normative claim is, we must do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation. Really? Why do we have to stop? Why do we need to do something about this? Assumption, you should try to stop things that are going to harm your future. Tori, so far so good?
So far so good. I mean, I was torn between A and B.
Wait, so sorry. I haven't even got it. That's the first flaw I'm seeing.
Right.
Are you cool with that flaw?
I am.
Okay.
Which is, I think I
Is that actually related to the answer?
I think it kind of explains a little bit about why B is correct.
The last sentence, or the last part of the sentence is, therefore we must enable our children to believe that better futures are possible. If helping them believe that better futures are possible... Wait, better futures are possible? I don't know if believing efforts to reduce pollution, poverty, and war are doomed to failure is the same thing. Like, one's like about very specific events and the other one's just about the future in general. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be a flaw there as well, like apart the whole thing. If you believe that better futures are possible, does that mean that you won't be pessimistic about war, poverty, and whatever, pollution?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Because, the future's going to be great, but we're still going to have problems with war and poverty and whatever. So those things are not, the conclusion is not necessarily tied in with the premises really well. Right. So it seems like there's a leap in logic there. So we have a leap from facts to morality, and we have a leap from, if you accept the morality claim, you still have a leap from better futures, which is sort of amorphous general claim, to a claim about reducing pollution, poverty, and war. Sound good?
Sound good.
Okay, so you were debating what?
A and B.
A, motivating people to work to solve humanity's problems will enable them to believe that the future can be better and will cause them to be less pessimistic.
Sorry, guys.
It's a great, it's a good cell phone call. Or ring. Okay. And will cause them to be less pessimistic. Yeah, it sounds good. I'd keep that open. Seems to strengthen. Oh, depends on the assumption. Sorry, necessary assumption.
Right, so what, now looking back, like, maybe this is wrong because it doesn't really give us anything new, and is the language kind of strong? I don't know.
Well, motivating people to work to solve humanity's problems will enable them to believe that the future can be better and will cause them to be less pessimistic. Sorry, let me just reread this lesson. I was talking so much about the flaws that we must do what we can to prevent this loss of measurement, therefore must enable our children to believe that better futures are possible. Oh, no, I feel like A is flipped around. They're saying we must do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation, and therefore we must enable our children to believe that better futures are possible. In other words, how do you get them to be motivated?
According to believing that if like you help, that their future will, or if you help with these issues, that their future will maybe better.
I think what the conclusion is suggesting is that if you help your children to believe that better futures are possible, then you'll prevent this loss of motivation.
Okay.
Right? Because the last sentence is saying, we got to stop this loss of motivation. Therefore, what do we got to do? We got to help them believe that better futures are possible. Okay. Well, you must think that helping them believe that better futures are possible somehow help avoid that loss of motivation. Right? And answer choice A says, motivating people to work to solve humanity's problems will enable them to believe that better futures are possible. It's like flipped around. It's backwards. Right? It's suggesting that motivating them will help them believe in better futures, rather than believing in better futures will help motivate them.
I think I see it.
You think?
No, I do.
I don't feel like it's 100% though.
Well, we must do what we can to prevent this loss. I mean, I don't know if I see it 100%, but I mean,
Well, let's focus on this conclusion for a half second. Okay. So the last sentence, right? The first part of the last sentence is, we must do what we can to prevent this loss of motivation. Are you cool with that?
Yes.
We gotta help them become motivated, basically.
Right.
And because this person thinks that we should help them become motivated, this person therefore thinks that we must enable them to believe better futures are possible. So does this person think that... Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, why does this person think that we must enable our children to believe that better futures are possible?
Is the idea like we're trying to prevent the loss of motivation?
That's exactly right. So they must think that helping your children believe better futures are possible will somehow make them more motivated.
I see how it's backwards now, how A is backwards.
That makes sense?
It does.
Okay, cool. B, enabling people to believe that better futures are possible will help prevent the loss of motivation that results from pessimistic beliefs about the future. That is going in the right direction. So basically A is a false contrapositive.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.